am Hershey's and I have a contract with the farmers group in Africa that gets the cocoa nibs that are required for chocolate, then I make it very difficult for anybody else to get into the chocolate business unless they resell from me, which means I'm still going to make a profit on their business. The second way you can think about that is customers. So government contracts is a classic example where if you get a contract like Lockheed Martin does for making fighter jets or whatever they make for the government for defense, then the government is known to be able to keep that contract, and they're only going to have one for a specific need at a time. And so once you lock that contract in, no one else can really compete for that core service for years. And then imagine 5 years later. Well, you've already done this for 5 years. Is someone going to spin up a company that didn't make all that money in that meantime, doesn't have all the relationships, and then get the next contract? Probably not. That's why companies like Oracle, Lockheed Martin are gajillion-dollar companies, because they basically just siphon off taxpayer dollars and have locked those contracts in. The third is contracts over distribution. And so you've got the supply side, you've got the customer side, and then you've got reaching the customers, which is basically the middle between the two. And so if I have an exclusive contract to sell video games and the only retail distribution is GameStonk, right? Then I can, unless there's other marketplaces for distribution, I can have a huge monopoly over everybody who walks into those stores. And so having exclusive contracts with distribution are ways of locking down markets. Well, I mean, I'll tell you an obvious one. One of the classic examples of having massive distribution as a monopoly is Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And so they're the primary two players in the drink game. And the reason is, as soon as they can buy a company that gets some sort of market share because they actually have a good product, they can immediately drop it into their distribution base of every single restaurant, every single 7-Eleven, every single Walmart, every single Walgreens, every single retail store. They already have the existing relationship. They already have the distribution. And so by having that locked in, they don't even have to really innovate. They just wait for the market to say, oh, this is a winner. They overpay the founder so that they get FU money, but they pay that guy $500 million and they immediately take that thing and make it worth $5 billion. And if someone were to try and compete with Coca-Cola, they'd have to have 100 years of sales and outbound teams establishing all of these connections. And the thing is that, especially because Coca-Cola is in the physical world, like there's not a huge, like you have to get the product to physical human beings. So having a physical distribution network gives them a huge competitive advantage. And this is just through contracts. They have these relationships, they have these agreements, and they're just already in place. And to the flip side, the people who are on the other end of these distribution agreements, if you don't carry Coca-Cola and Pepsi, people are like, what kind of Mickey Mouse thing you got going on here? Because they own the vast majority of the beverages that most people consume. And so when you're thinking about building your business, having these agreements where you can get access to distribution increases the value of the company and secures revenue, because you get to rely on all the marketing each of these individual retailers